Welcome to part 2 of the CRX build. So I'm going to explain real quick what we're doing. We're going to do the modifications to get the mounts to fit first before we start cleaning up or doing any kind of cosmetic work, because if not, we're just going to be scratching new paint. Sometimes this process takes several attempts, putting the motor in, checking it for clearance, pulling it back out. Now, this is the way I've done it based on, we once imported a Japanese clip, and we noticed the mount here was a 9091 Integra mount, but this frame rail here didn't come in as far as it does on the US model. If you look down here, that frame was almost back here straight, so it had a lot more clearance. This is already being semi-clearanced. Obviously it had a ZC on it, but before that it was a single cam supercharger. So most of the mount kits, because of that, bring the engine forward so you don't have to get into this, because not many mount companies want to sell you a mount and a big ginormous hammer to make it fit. So engine comes forward. Some of those mounts basically would have an angle this way to bring the engine forward so you didn't have to clearance that. The mounts, the way I do it is to use the Honda rubber mounts. I use the Honda rubber mount here, the Honda rubber mount here, the 9091 mount here, which we have, I'll show you here in a second. I hang the motor on here, and then the old-fashioned way was to use tape lines, measurement to get the engine perfectly level, perfectly angled. We can also measure down here for the axles to make sure the axles are even so we don't have any axle issues. Now the main clearance area is of course this. This lip along here, mainly around this mount, is a tough spot. Also this corner here where you see that reinforcement, the transmission corner is almost in here. So this has to be clearanced here too. So this mount here, I use the CRX mount, which is the one mount that sits like this, and I make a bracket to go from the transmission to that mount. Now when I said I did over 100 CRXs, I stopped counting at 106. We have a list of the CRXs we did. We stopped at 106 because to me, they all started looking the same. But that was the way I did it. I didn't show anybody this because I didn't have cameras back in the day, I didn't have a YouTube channel. So I never showed it, I just did my mount kit and kept everybody happy and stayed out of everybody's way and built CRXs. So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna do some more clearance here, some more clearance here. The mount will be here. The mount has to be shaved to sit in that pocket. I'll show you that. Just want to show you how much it's clearanced, which is probably more than we need, but it's always better to do it once than do it 15 times. And this over here, same thing. That's about how much we pushed it down. If you look at it down there, once this is all verified, it fits. When I wire brush all that. And usually what I do is those two areas there, weld those two together to make it one piece. And same if there's any holes here. This hole was just basically a plug. We'll go ahead and weld that hole up because they're going to repaint that. This is it, engine mount. This is the part number, and this actually is a Honda part number, but we got it from our local parts store because it's discontinued like everything Honda. This is the mount you're gonna need. This is the part that gets it started. These ears here, you're gonna have to trim off. Some people use a grinder. Don't use a grinder because you get the middle too hot and you melt the rubber. I saw people do that so many times. This is a little tight in there. Another way is to get a hammer and pound this open. Don't do that. The reason I don't do that is it loses some of the structure here, and when you cut this to fit in here perfect, this will also help square up the motor. If you look over here and here, you can see the mount parallel through here. Another way that you've got a visual to make sure the motor isn't crooked. So measure this. This is actually looks exactly like a Honda mount. This little ridge here, you're literally going to cut that little piece off there, each side, and it will fit in there. Again, this is the first mount you need to get started. Motor is in. Now this is the tape lines here. This is going back 25 years. This is the old school way of doing it. But it gives you infinite amount of measurement. Again, if the car isn't wrecked, you can find points that are going to be very equal. Like right now I'm using this point here. I've used this bolt here. I'm testing it on here too. Same, I'm lining it up right on the very edge of that. And you'd be surprised how close you can get it. As more points as you can get to measure, the more accurate you are going to be. But as you see right now, that motor is sitting exactly perfect. Now here's our mount. Talked about it's in the pocket exactly where it needs to be. It's tight. Now before we built a conversion bracket to go from that to the CRX mount, we just decided to do a quick kind of measure. We have this from an EG. This is obviously the mount when we did a K series. It's just been sitting around. Well, this is an Integra mount. We're thinking because this car is going to go B series and probably never go back to D, we're going to cut that pocket off and weld this in place and use just a regular Integra mount. First off, it's a mount. It's already designed to fit the transmission, and it's designed to work for the weight of this transmission, and it's a factory mount. We're still going to build the mount on the back. Once a motor is relaxed, now I talked about being relaxed on Hasport mounts, whatever mount you use, the engine is supported, all the mounts are loose so that the engine isn't pulled in on one mount more than the other, then you tighten it all together. Same thing here, the engine is completely supported on our little cart down here, so the mounts are not doing anything. Then when all the mounts are made and you lower the engine onto the mounts, first off, it shouldn't move much at all, but if it does, it moves evenly. It doesn't pull on one more than the other, causing vibration. So the clearance over here, tons and tons of clearance. I mean, you've got to go a little crazy over here, but the more clearance you give it, the easier it is to change belts. And when the alternator swings back for tension, you got more room. Over here, I don't know if you can see that, I'm still tight. That very furthest bolt out there, I'm about 2 millimeters away from the frame. So we're going to make a mark here, clearance it there. We're going to cut that mount off and lay this mount over here, see if that is going to give us the amount of room we need. It's not the way I used to do it, but it's going to give us, it's going to be easier, but it's going to give us the proper mount for the proper location. We're going to be painting the engine bay anyway. One of the reasons I didn't do this is because I didn't paint the engine bay back in the day. So that's it. Let's get the engine out. Now we know what we need to do. Do our clearancing, put the motor back in, line it up again, start making some mounts. Nice thing about this is designed for a B16 swap. It's a full-size radiator, which I'm a big fan of, but the inlet and outlet are larger. I can see it right there. They're designed for B16 hoses, which is the same size as B16, B18 inlet and outlet. See that? Now, the old radiator that was in this car wasn't very good. It's a little old, but this is a bolt-in. See the difference in size? You can use this, but you end up coming down and squashing the hose and it looks goofy. It's going to leak. It's not a good idea. This has the right size. Makes life so much easier. This is a drop-in deal. Now, we did have a small fan on here. Probably going to do the same thing. Put one small here and then a small one on the other side. We do want the air conditioning to work right, so we can make them both pull fans and attach them to this radiator, make life easier. Now, another reason I like this radiator is it's pretty thin. See this? I know this isn't like the industry standard for measuring. John's thumb, there is no data about that, but I would say that is about an inch thick, so it's not much different. This is the progress. We have that mount trimmed and ready to go. The old pocket, bucket, whatever you want to call it, the ears are taken off. Now this is the crossmember we are using. It is the innovative. I'll show you the part number in a minute. What I do like about this is you can utilize the mounts for the radiator, and it's got the lower mounts for the half size. If you're going to do the little EG radiator, it accepts the OEM radius rods. It does give you new bushings, but I believe you can run the rubber bushings. I'll let you know when we come to that. It does have a front mount. Well, this is right in the area that our slave cylinder is going to be. You see that? This is the CRX mount. We're going to utilize it and mount it somewhere about here and pick up those ears. I'll show you that as we get to it. Compressor, I don't know if we're going to use the CRX compressor or the EG Denso compressor, the new one that we bought. If you know of a JDM airbox for a CRX, it looks like the US CRX airbox is just a little bit longer. And I'm trying to go for the OE look on this, and I think it will look good in there. So if you know of one, let me know, comment below, message me on Instagram. I'd love to buy it off you. The CRX shirts are getting printed right now. I just put in the store just the CRX logo. I'll put the actual picture of the CRX shirts. They're gonna look like the Integra shirts, but they're black shirts with white. Of course, Steve's car was white. That's gonna go along with it. It's gonna just have the CRX silhouette. Nice and simple, nice and clean, nothing obnoxious. If you click on there to be notified, as soon as they're ready and they're in the store, it'll just message you and say, hey, shirt's ready if you wanna buy it. Click, follow the link. It's not gonna spam you or anything like that. The Integra shirt's almost sold out. We have one of each size of red. I just looked. What we do is put a few less than we actually have in the box for some reason if we mess up the counting. And then as we start to get close to running out, we count exactly how many's in the box and just make sure everything is up to date and put them in the store. So black Integra shirts are almost sold out. So if you want those, buy those, click, help support the channel. Talking of which, don't forget, hit the subscribe. Let us know if there's more information you want, if we're dragging, if it's a little bit boring. I understand I can talk too much, and sometimes I can show you stuff that you don't really need to see. But then again, people tell me I kind of gloss over what they want to see. So let me know. Comment below. I do read the comments. Usually once a video goes live, I usually sit there for about an hour and a half watching the comments. So if you want to talk to me, I'll try and answer you back and kind of communicate that way. But in the meantime, thanks for watching. See you in the next video. I'm excited to get to part 3. It's late now. It's 8 o'clock. I gotta go home. I gotta make sure my wife doesn't leave me because I'm always building something and staying late. So I'll see you back here tomorrow. Thanks for watching. Have a great night.